I am very delighted to welcome you to all to attend the workshop on Christianity. And as far as I know, this is the first of its kind to be done in the United States. The workshop mainly designed for Muslims to understand Christianity and the terms which are used in the Bible of different versions with different terminology. The reason we have this workshop is the absence of knowledge about Christianity. As most of us, our knowledge is mainly come from our source, the Quran. So here we have to learn about Christianity from its sources. The workshop will provide us with some techniques used to approach the Christian mind and how to succeed in a Christian-Muslim dialogue. I'm honored here to introduce you to our speaker, Brother Gary Miller from Ontario, Canada. He used to be a Christian whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided him to Islam. Gary has been traveling all over the States to deliver speeches and to engage in some dialogues and debates. Also, Brother Yusuf Backus, our guest from South Africa. He is supposed to be a lawyer, but he's supposed to be a lawyer, but he has a better chance to meet Brother Ahmed Didat in South Africa in the Islamic Propagation Center in Durban, Africa, South Africa. We are videotaping this workshop to make it available for every Muslim in all over the States. So if you need to get a copy of it, you just write to the Islamic Center of Lawrence, 1300 Ohio, Lawrence, Kansas, 66044. And for more information, you can call Brother Hamid at 913-841-9768. The program will go like this: from 10:30 to 12, Gary Miller will be speaking, and 12:15 to 1:30, Brother Yusuf Backus will be speaking, and then we'll have lunch and prayer time break. From 3 to 5, the answering submitted questions. So if you have any question, you might as well keep it until 3, and Brother Yusuf and Brother Gary Miller will provide the answer for it. From 6:15 to 7:30, each one of our speakers will be speaking. The dinner and the prayer time and the lunch time will be provided in the Islamic Center of Lawrence, 1300 Ohio. I'll introduce you to Brother Gary Miller.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Let me begin by suggesting that whatever information you hear in the delivery here, don't automatically take that and add it to whatever else you may have heard, thinking, this is a new fact, I'll put it along with the other things I've heard about Christianity. That can lead to a lot of confusion, because probably most of what you've heard before isn't true. To put it very bluntly, there's a great deal of misunderstanding among Muslims concerning Christianity, so be very careful about just what you do hold to be the case. The main thing is to consider the source. That is, if you think you know a thing about Christianity, where did you hear it anyway? Did you hear it from a Christian? Well, then it probably is true. Did you hear it from a Muslim? Well, think again. What was his source? There's really two kinds of Christian source and two kinds of Muslim source. We'll try to explain the two kinds of Christian sources as we go along, but consider that any question you may ask of a Christian, his answer will depend on which of the two types of Christianity does he belong to. But more about those types later. If you ask a Muslim something about Christianity, you have to ask him, what is your authority for what you say? There are Muslims who are well informed. There are Muslims who have never met Christians but are still well informed because they take the care to double check their sources. Not too long ago, a group of people who were active in this outreach to Christians in Pakistan had sent me a copy of some literature that they had written. They simply wanted me to look it over to say, is there something in here that isn't true? I'm not saying every Muslim ought to send something to me so I can look it over first. But the attitude was that they want to ask other people who should know something about this. And that's following in the best tradition of the Quran. That's the advice always given. If you don't know, ask the man who knows. It tells you again and again. Don't just take hearsay or take any information without double-checking it. You're supposed to confirm what you hear. The Quran talks, of course, about people of the book. And usually the Muslim thinks, yes, Jews and Christians. Well, that's possibly too quick of a generalization, because the Quran says people of the book, and if you quickly say, oh, those are Jews and Christians, then you start to automatically think, well, when the Quran says the book, it must mean the Bible. And that's not true. That's a very basic point that I'd like to stress. When the Quran talks about the book, it's not talking about the Bible, for the simple reason that the Bible doesn't talk about the Bible. That word is a nickname. It's not in the Bible anywhere. It's a nickname in the English language and a few other languages. And the Danish say Bibel, and the English say Bible. The Germans say Heilige Schrift, which means the holy writings. That's perhaps a more accurate title. Bible is a nickname that just means library. So this collection of writings has come to be called Bible. But the Quran talks about the book. And it's a tactic that's often used by missionaries to Muslims to say, look, your book says my book is correct. Well, your book doesn't talk about their book. It talks about a book. And we'll get into more about that later. As to what exactly the Bible is, physically it's a collection of writings. Different groups recognize different writings as making up the Bible. The Catholic Church, Roman Catholic Church at least, recognizes 72 books in the Bible, as well as some additions to some books. Most Protestants would recognize 66 books as being the library that makes up the Bible, and the Eastern Orthodox churches have some other opinions. But by and large, when people say Bible, probably most Muslims are in contact with people who are talking about the 66 recognized by the Protestant half of Christianity. So it is a library, a collection of 66 books, which is usually divided into two sections, the Old Testament and the New Testament. The Old Testament has 39 books, and all of these were written before the time of Jesus. The New Testament is simply a nickname for the 27 books written after the time of Jesus. The names of the books, we could recite them all, but the names are simply nicknames. They're something like the nicknames of surahs in the Quran, the chapters of the Quran. The names of those surahs are just nicknames the Muslims give for the sake of convenience. And in the same sense, the Bible has nicknames: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, and so on. They're nicknames taken out of the book. The books don't give themselves those titles.